This is Hank Kunneman. If you're unfamiliar, he's a hate preacher, a televangelist, megachurch pastor, that kind of guy. He's giving a sermon about meeting Jesus and how Jesus was really a very manly person who didn't want you to turn the other cheek, or at the very least, once you turn the other cheek enough times, he thinks that you should retaliate hard. Guy's obviously picking out verses that he views as valuable, that he wants to believe. So he's only picking out the violent verses, of course. Let's listen to what Hank has to say. The first hour and 11 minutes of this were Hank begging for money. I'm not even joking. This isn't part one. If you didn't see the others, don't sweat it. This stands independently of the rest. I'll provide context if it's missing. But yeah, while we watch this, we're going to play some Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu. Should just be in the background. Won't bother you too much if you never played it. And let's hear what Hank has to say, shall we?
Praying in a certain place, and when he stopped praying, one of his disciples said unto him, Lord, teach us to pray. This is the word of the Lord for 2024. It's a governmental year. 24 is a governmental number. That's why there's 24 elders in the court of heaven. It's a governmental year, and it just so happens that we are in one of the most incredible governmental elections of the history of our country.
That's funny because he said that exact thing in 2020. In fact, Hank Kunneman claimed that in 2020, Trump was absolutely, for sure, most definitely, and without a doubt, going to win the election. 2024, 2020, that's what he said. And of course, when that failed, he kind of came out and lost it on everybody.
Why is Hank Kunneman standing? Because God has spoken to me. And you want to call me false, and yet I have stood, and I stand with God. I will stand with this loyalty, whether you think I'm false or not. If that's what you think, then you can take your opinion, and you can shove it.
Anyway, yeah, now you know who Hank Kunneman is and what he's all about, if you were curious. Apparently 2024 is a special year, though. See, 2020 wasn't a special year. He claimed it was, but it really wasn't. 2024 is a special year.
World. And you need to know how to pray. Now watch the next thing that Yeshua teaches. He says, when you pray, first thing you do is you put your attention on God himself. You hallow his name. You worship him. You tell him how great he is. You blow him a kiss. Right? That's what I do. I tell God, I love you, God.
That's super weird. I always found it weird that God expected us to put a puff in his petticoat. Why? You know, I have a kid. I don't expect my kid to put a puff in my petticoat, literally ever. In fact, I'd cringe if she did that. It would be bad. It'd be painful. It'd be like, oh, God, don't do that. That's awful. If she just stood there, every time she talked to me, she said, best father in the world, you've done so much for me, and I love you, and I appreciate it so much. Do you want me to make a sandwich? I'm making one, too. If she said that every single time she talked to me to any degree, it would be weird. It would be wrong. It would not feel right at all. Why is it that these people seem to believe that God wants people to do that for him? If God really does want people doing that for him, then people should be doing that a lot less. Nobody should be communing with God. Nobody should even respect God if that's the kind of God he is, honestly.
So God, he's amazing, man. God's a dude, man. All right. So, hallowed be thy name. Now, watch what he prays. We've prayed this religiously. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy holy name.
What?
Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven.
Is he making fun of Jesus right now? What is happening? 127.50. Hank makes fun of Jesus? Question mark? I thought he said Jesus was a manly man, not a wuss or whatever.
Okay, and the devil looks at us and goes, what was that? Alfred Hitchcock presents. It's Alfred Hitchcock, I will be as it is in heaven. Okay, whatever. And most of us don't even know what we just prayed.
I certainly don't know what Hank just said.
So I've been to Moscow, Russia. I've been there like a couple times. And one time, Brenda and I were there. It was like 3 o'clock in the morning, right? And we're touring Red Square, right? with this really tough dude, man, and some tough dudes that were around him. I had no
This really tough dude, man, guy, pal, bud, friend. Quick note before we continue, I want to let you know I just wrote a book, and it's in pre-order status at this immediate moment. If you want to check it out, owenmorgan.com/book. It's a book about my experiences within Jehovah's Witnesses. I go through their doctrine and everything. It's completely understandable if you know nothing about Jehovah's Witnesses. And if you're a Christian, it's a good reference to use for why Jehovah's Witnesses are wrong about their interpretation of the Bible. The last chapter of the book is 100 questions that I have for the governing body. I'm selling the last chapter separately as its own separate guide if you guys want to get that too. So check it out, owenmorgan.com/book. I'd appreciate that.
idea who they were. They were just sent to meet us, from this other church. And all of a sudden this car pulls up. The window goes down. I hear him. The guy goes,
He must have decided to make this his sermon of terrible impressions.
And the guy rolls up his window. I said, man, what did you say? He goes, oh, that was Russia Mafia. I went. And they were like wondering who you guys were. And he goes, but I had it taken care of. I used to be part of the Russian Mafia high up. They don't mess with me still. I'm like, all right, man, come on with the tour. Let's keep going, man. But if I would have went up.
Okay, what did that have to do with anything? Why did he tell us that story? I feel like I just made a massive mess, a big, ridiculous mess out of that. And I have to take a shower now because there's stuff all over the place. I don't understand what he's even talking about.
Keep going, man. But if I would have went up to Putin's door. And
I think it's Putin, but okay.
I would have taken a big old American flag. And I would have planted it like they did on the moon. If we went there. No, I'm just teasing. I'm just messing with you.
Somehow I don't think that he's just messing with us. That's actually really funny, though. His audience is predisposed to believe we didn't go to the moon. That's really good. Do you know that when we went to the moon, when the Americans did, they knew that the cosmonauts, the Russians, the USSR, would doubt that we actually did. So we put mirrors on the moon, gigantic mirrors, that you can shine lasers at them and get a reflection back and measure how far away the moon is and stuff. And that was our method of proving that we really did go to the moon. If we didn't go to the moon, you can bet your bottom dollar that the cosmonauts, the Russians in general, the USSR, our Cold War partners, if you will, would have called us out, would have doubted us, would have claimed that we were lying about it. They absolutely would have claimed that we were lying. But everybody, universally, all world governments accept that we did go to the moon. Candace Owens believes that we didn't go to the moon. Lots and lots and lots of right-wingers believe that we didn't. So he says he's joking, but it's important for him to have said that, in all seriousness.
Putin's door. And I would have taken a big old American flag. And I would have planted it like they did on the moon. If we went there. No, I'm just teasing. I'm just messing with you. I'm messing with you. I did not say.
That's funny. I like that. I appreciate that joke.
I did not say we didn't. I was just messing with the moon people. All right, now watch. Those are you Moonies out there. All right, now watch.
If you're unfamiliar, Moonies are it's a religious movement. They don't like being called Moonies anymore. Grand Unification Church. They came up with the name Moonies. That was the cult that Stephen Hassan was in long ago. I still call them Moonies because they think that it gave them a bad reputation, or they think they had a bad reputation, and so the name Moonies is negative. Well, yeah, they do have a bad reputation. The name Moonies does look bad on people. They're not going to be able to escape that. Quick interjection, this won't take long. If you like what I do, I'd appreciate it if you watch the video to the end. YouTube bases video reach off of watch time, so watching even an extra minute makes the video go further. Liking and subscribing goes a long way too. Finally, it would be awesome if you guys checked out my Patreon. All links are in the description, of course. Okay, back to the video.
If he planted the flag, if I planted the flag right in front of Putin's office door and said, "Thy United States kingdom has come," you think Putin would go, "Oh, welcome"? He'd go, "What? You have invaded Russia and Moscow. Get him off of my property. Get him out of Moscow." Right? It would be an imprecatory statement. So you think Jesus knew what he was?
Telling people to get off of your property is not an imprecatory statement. Imprecatory is cursing somebody specifically, not telling someone to leave.
Get him off of my property. Get him out of Moscow. Right? It would be an imprecatory statement. So you think Jesus knew what he was saying when he said, "Thy kingdom come"? He wasn't saying, "Thy kingdom come." He was saying, like Rocky, "Yo, thy kingdom come."
What is he talking about? I am straight up lost.
It was like the demons of darkness. Now look at what Martin Luther said. This is power. All right, look at what Martin Luther said. In the words of Martin Luther. Martin Luther points out, when one prays, "Hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done." If you pray that, then you must put all opposition to this in one pile, and you must say, curses, maledictions, disgrace upon every other kingdom. May they be ruined and torn apart, and may all their schemes and wisdom and plans run aground. He's talking about...
Okay, Martin Luther, if anybody is unfamiliar, was a guy in the 1600s, I think, who challenged the Catholic Church. The word Catholic literally means universal. The Catholic Church took over Christianity and banned anybody from practicing any other religion or even owning a Bible. They had to go through the Catholic Church, and they controlled the governments in a lot of towns, and honestly, a lot of larger governments too. Martin Luther finally nailed theses to a wall or to a door or something and said, "These are the things that the Catholic Church gets wrong." And that was the Protestant split. Catholicism no longer fully controlled Christianity the way that it had previously. After Martin Luther came along, Protestants split off. I think Anabaptists split off in 1515. I'm not sure if that was before or I'm not sure if that was slightly before Martin Luther or at the same time. But anyway, the point is that Martin Luther said, according to Hank, I mean, distrust everything he says here, but according to Hank, Martin Luther said, saying, "Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth," means that you must curse all other kingdoms on earth and hope that they'll be ruined and torn apart. If you hope God's kingdom comes on earth, then you necessarily must want every other government to fall and be destroyed permanently. That's what he's saying, I think.
Ruined and torn apart, and may all their schemes and wisdom and plans run aground. He's talking about wicked kingdoms. Amen. That's Martin Luther. People are going to convert to Catholicism after that. All right. Now look at Genesis 9. Let me show you now. Let me bring you back to the origin. Look at verse 20. I want to walk you through this very quickly in the closing hour we don't have an hour. And Noah began to be a farmer, and he planted a vineyard. Let's walk through this very carefully. And he drank of the wine, and he was drunk. And he was uncovered in his tent.
Oh, I remember this. This is where Noah's daughters came in, and they slept with him to get pregnant by him. Is that right? Am I thinking of the right verse?
Was what? He was naked.
Lutherans don't follow Luther. They follow God. I grew up Lutheran, the most conservative branch of Lutheranism. Luther is not a person I venerated and did not know much about him until after I left the Lutheran Church. Yeah. Lutheranism is its own weird little branch, from my understanding. Calvinists are also another weird little branch.
All right, when's the last time that you see the word naked? You see it in Genesis 3 when Adam and Eve sinned. And God said, who told you that you were uncovered? Who told you that you were naked? So I'm going to see that, all right? Now let's go back to Genesis 9. Now watch what happens. Verse 21, he's uncovered. Look at verse 22. You have to understand what is going on here. Because this is going to show you the origins of abortion, false religion, globalism.
Okay. This is going to show us the origins of globalism and abortion. What?
Communism, socialism, transgenderism, Freemasonry, come on, all of the things, homosexuality, all the things that we're facing and we're fighting against, especially with the party of the non-religious, the left.
Wow, dude, that's crazy. I need to write this out. This is a wild sermon. The curse of Ham is the origin of communism, abortion, socialism, transgenderism, etc. Wow, dude, this is crazy.
The party of we're not religious, yeah, but you're bent on evil.
Okay, nobody ever said that Democrats are the party of the non-religious, or that they are non-religious in general. No one ever said any of that. What the hell is he talking about? If you didn't see the other parts to this, I played this in another one. I think in the first part to this series. We might be in part 3 or 4 now. This is Brenda, his wife, talking about the Democratic Party.
I can't find anything, and believe me, I've looked, anything on the left that is good to support. Okay, it's filled with lies and homosexuality and abominations and, in fact, the party, I'll just say it, the Democrat Party put straight up on their platform that we are the party of the non-religious. We don't want God. We're atheists. That's what they've said. You can go read it yourself.
No, they never said that. At no point anywhere ever did the Democratic Party, officially or unofficially, in their platform or otherwise, ever claim they're the party of the non-religious. That did not happen. This is just a blatant, flat-out lie. It's hard to tell if these people genuinely believe what they're saying or if they're lying, just straight up intentionally stating falsehoods. It's hard to know which it is. Do they know what they're doing? Are they doing this intentionally? When she says things like that, I have to imagine she knows she's lying, right? Anyway, I guess that's what Hank is saying too. Have they read the Democratic platform? The word atheist or secular are nowhere to be found anywhere. In fact, I don't even think there's mention of their religious status.
The left. The party of we're not religious, yeah, but you're bent on evil. Why? Because the enemy, there's only really 2 kingdoms. I'm not saying the right is the kingdom of God, but at least they right with things that are moral most of the time, except if you got a few rhinos that are thrown in there.
Oh my God, dude.
But watch this. You have to go back to verse 22. Now Ham, don't ever say, well, that little kid's just hamming it up. Ham was cursed, man. He was part of a curse. Now watch this. The father of who? Canaan. Who did Israel fight against?
Yeah, the Canaanites lived in the same area as the Israelites for a long time, and they intermixed their cultures. They borrowed gods from each other and things like that. When the Israelites took Yahweh on as the God that they worship, they took Yahweh from the Canaanites. The Canaanites had a set of gods they believed in, and one of those gods was Yahweh. Hard to know exactly what type of God he was. Suspicion is, by scholars, suspicion is that he was a war god, probably. But again, it's really hard to know for sure. Anyway, when the Israelites first, became worshipers of Yahweh, they were not monotheists. They believed in other gods for centuries. Eventually, you can see that plain as day in the Ten Commandments. You shall have no other gods before me. They believed in those gods, but did not worship them because they believed that worshiping them was wrong. Anyway, Canaanites lived there with the Israelites is the point, and they fought each other regularly. And if you notice, there aren't any Canaanites around today. You ever wonder why?
The Canaanites. Okay, and we're going to discover what the Canaanites, what cities that they were a part of, off of this one act that I'm going to show you in Genesis 9. You have to pay attention. You have to see what really happened. Because it'll help you understand why is this level of evil and corruption at the height that it is. Why are children being targeted? What's all of this about?
It's not happening. When he says, why are children being targeted, he means, why are people trying to turn children trans? That's what he's talking about. They're not. That's not happening.
And Ham, the father of Canaan, saw the nakedness. Underline that word saw. Now you have to understand that this is a very important word, that word saw. It's not just that he glanced, that he just happened to see his dad's buns.
I mean, it could mean that. Saw just means observed. Doesn't have any implication about how long that thing was observed or whatever. It very well could be exactly what Hank is saying it's not. He's not only extrapolating unjustifiably, but he's claiming that he knows for a fact that this is what it means because he talks to God. He is in communication with God directly.
Okay? That's not what this means. You have to understand what it literally means. It literally means saw is the same Hebrew word for when God saw what he made. Remember in the book of Genesis, God created the heavens and the earth and saw after each day
Observe
what he made. And that word saw means to look at, but it's more than that. It means
to observe. Simple as that. It doesn't mean to sit there and stare at for an extended period of time the way he's claiming. What?
when God saw what he made, it meant pleasured. He was pleasured by what he made.
Oh boy.
He was pleased by what he saw. God enjoyed what he saw.
Okay, that's not what the word saw means, though, or what it meant in the Old Testament. What is he talking about? So he's saying that Noah's kids looked at him, and they saw his buns and they enjoyed it a little bit?
And there's also part of that translation, God even had his his touch on it. Yeah. Now, in Ham's case, it would be his physical touch. God had his hand on it, touching. So did Ham. It's the same word. To see, to touch, to enjoy.
He says it's the same word. I don't believe him. Does he even know what word was used in these circumstances? I would bet money that Hank doesn't know the word used in the original language. And he's sitting here claiming to know, apparently, right? Claiming that there is some connection between the words, the descriptions used. Well, what's the word then, Hank? What is the Hebrew word if it matches with what Ham saw and what God saw when observing his creation? What's the word? What is the Hebrew word for this, if they match? Is it weird to anyone else that he didn't even tell us?
So did Ham. It's the same word. To see, to touch, to enjoy, to be pleasured by it.
What's the word then? Tell me what the word is, if that's true.
This was more than just looking and seeing. He moved into an incestual act. How do you know? Saw the nakedness. That's not just that he saw a naked body.
Okay. So he moved into an incestuous act and a gay act then, right? Because Ham was Noah's son? Is that right? What verse is that? Hang on, let me just look that up because I want to know what word is used exactly. I know Hank is completely full of it. I'm just curious. So, did he give us a quote? Genesis 9 in the NRSVA. the chosen translation of scholars. Noah, a man of the soil. I don't know if you guys knew this, but the word Adam, A-D-A-M, means soil. So Adam, from the book of Genesis, coming from the earth, is kind of like saying earthling came from earth. So like every time you see the name Adam, it wasn't a name. It was a descriptor, it was a descriptor. What would you call it? An adjective? No, soil, ground. Is that a noun or an adjective? I can't think of it all of a sudden. Like I haven't had a grammar class in like years, so cut me some slack here. He lay uncovered in his tent, and Ham, the father of Canaan, saw the nakedness of his father and told his two brothers outside. Shem and Japheth took a garment, laid it on both their shoulders, and walked backwards and covered the nakedness of their father. Their faces were turned away. They did not see their father's nakedness. When Noah awoke from his wine and knew what his youngest son had done to him, he said, "Cursed be Canaan, lowest of slaves shall he be to his brothers." Wait a minute. Ham was the father of Canaan. Wait, Canaan was a person and not an ethnic group? I'm confused about this. I have no idea what's going on. By the way, the book of Genesis is not historical narrative, really. It's written like historical narrative, but it's something called antiquity literature. That's the Latin name for it. It's called archaeological literature in Greek. It's different from normal historical narrative in that in antiquity literature, like Genesis, they don't separate myth and legend and fact. They blend them all together. So it's basically giving a bunch of anecdotes, a bunch of stories from people that they knew, campfire stories, if you will. They're hearing stories from everybody and they're writing them down. Whether they're realistic or not, whether they're true or not, they represent their history because they're stories. They're part of their culture. So none of this should be taken as literal or factually true. It's all just antiquity literature. I think they used such verses to enslave the blacks. Yes, they did, as a matter of fact. The curse of Ham. There's also the curse of Cain, or the mark of Cain. One of the two was used by the Mormon church to justify not allowing black people into the church. And it was also used to enslave black people and claim that they deserve it because they are the descendants of Ham or Cain. I don't remember which specific one, but that's what he's referring to right now. The curse of Ham. Surprising.
His his touch on it. Now, in Ham's case, it would be his physical touch. God had his hand on it, touching. So did Ham. It's the same word. To see, to touch, to enjoy, to be pleasured by it.
I didn't pick that up. I don't know what he's talking about here. That was verse 20. Ham, the father of Canaan, saw the nakedness of his father, told his two brothers outside. So seeing his nakedness was the wrongdoing, I guess, is the point. This is verse 22. So Genesis 9:22. Interlinear Bible. Interlinear gives us the original words that are used. The word saw is wayar, apparently. Now, let's look at some other contexts in which this word is used. God saw that the light was good. And God saw the light, and God saw that it was good. Then the Lord saw that the wickedness, and God saw the wickedness of man. That doesn't look like God's looking at it with pleasure. Look, Genesis 6:5 uses the exact same word that Hank is using here, claiming that it implies pleasure or happiness or enjoyment. The same word used Genesis 6:5. Then the Lord saw that wickedness, blah, blah, blah. You know what that sounds like to me? It sounds like Hank is just lying. Like he has no idea what these words mean. He doesn't even know if it is the same word. but he's going to use it anyway and make any claims about it that he wants because he knows his people aren't going to look it up. The guy is just flat out lying, seemingly.
Ham. It's the same word. To see, to touch, to enjoy.
No.
To be pleasured by it.
No, that's not what it means. It means to observe.
This was more than just looking and seeing.
No, it wasn't.
He moved into an incestual act. How do you know? Saw the nakedness. That's not just that he saw a naked body.
That is literally what the words meant. Now, Hank can claim that an incestuous act took place after he saw, but I didn't see any evidence or any implication that that was the case. Maybe there are other parts of the Bible that talk about this, or maybe there's another verse a few chapters later that says that that's what happened. Maybe scholars did some textual criticism and came to the conclusion that's likely what happened. I don't know. I have no clue. But from what we just read, that is not what it said. It's not even implied. The same word is used to describe negative observance. The guy is just lying, seemingly. How does it get clearer?
That's not...
I don't know why, but it's lagging every time I hit play.
More than just looking and seeing. He moved into an incestual act. How do you know? Saw the nakedness. That's not just that he saw a naked body. If you understand the Hebrew word and where it's brought into other things, it's a very specific organ of the body. Genitals.
Okay, hang on. I'm sorry. Listen one more time.
Saw, and there's also part of that translation, God even had his his touch on it.
What the hell? Why is this lagging and messing up?
And seeing. He moved into an incestual act. How do you know? Saw the nakedness. That's not just that he saw a naked body. If you understand the Hebrew word and where it's brought into other things, it's a very specific organ of the body.
What word? What word is a specific organ of the body? What is he talking about? The word saw? He's been talking about saw this whole time. SAW. It meant observe. Does he mean the word used to describe like naked? I have that word here too. Nakedness. Erwat. ERWAT is how it's pronounced, I guess. A few other examples where it's used in the Bible. Genesis 42:12. To look at the undefended parts of our land. So the word doesn't mean genitals. It doesn't mean organs. It doesn't mean naked, really. It means undefended. It means bare. Bare is probably a more faithful translation. Exposed. Yeah, exposed or bare. What is all of this about genitals?
To be pleasured by it. This was more than just looking and seeing. He moved into an incestual act. How do you know? Saw the nakedness. That's not just that he saw a naked body. If you understand the Hebrew word and where it's brought into other things, it's a very specific organ of the body. Genitals. Okay? So he saw, enjoyed, was pleasured, and touched genitals.
No, that is not what it says at all. What the hell is he talking about right now? I am so lost. Look, the reason he gets away with this is because nobody looks it up. Nobody follows through and searches up the original language. Nobody tries to fact check him on anything here. And he just makes things up. Whole cloth. Makes it up. It blows me away that he's just so brazen about this. This is just a joke. This guy has no idea what he's talking about. He's just making things up. This is just sad. Anyway, that's Hank Kunneman. That's Brenda Kunneman, his wife. Let me know what you think about these people. I am absolutely appalled.